get to test out how my diff repair ended up going. And this is crazy for two reasons. One, because I mean, it's a big repair, testing out welding the subframe, polyurethane bushings, the whole 9 yards. There's a lot of things that I want to kind of test out and check here. But two, it's the end of December, guys. Like, it is, I've never in my life had my car out this late, ever. It's ridiculous. It's something I never would have dreamed I would be driving my car at the end of December. It's just, in our area, northwestern Canada, that is not a thing. I've bought my car brand new in 2009, so I've had my car for, what, 14 years now or so, or 15 years or whatever. It's never seen snow. I will not drive this car in snow, or even take it out when it's been snowing a lot, because they put the salt solution, that brine stuff, on the road, and that is... and that is brutal for the undercarriage of your car. It really messes up your, it rusts all your components. Like, my Jeep is a 2012 and it was covered in rust. I had to do something about it and treat all that rust underneath it, just because the winter and the salt on the roads is like super tough on car parts. So the thing that makes me able to drive my car this year is the weather has been insanely mild, like unprecedented. It's so crazy. On top of that, there's been no big dump of snow that we've had. We have had a little bit of like dustings of snow, but nothing to the point that they're throwing salt on the roads. Now, our city in Edmonton, where I live, has decided to stop using that salt solution for most of the city, except for our main freeway, the ring road. That's the only spot that they'll use it. But on top of that, there just hasn't been the snowfall to warrant using it. So I know that the roads are clean, which is great. And it's, right now it's +7, guys. Like, that is crazy mild. So being able to drive the car at the end of December, like, this is, it's a Christmas miracle, guys. One thing that's super cool about it is that 7 degrees Celsius, it's not super warm out, so at least like that cool kind of air, you kind of gives the car a little bit more pep, a little bit more kick. You can definitely feel it a bit. It's got some jump. But I'm just super stoked to be able to test it out and drive it out, and I'm just kind of gonna make a video test driving this and testing the components here, and I'm just gonna take you guys along for the ride. One thing that I did notice immediately is on top of the race axles. So the race axles helped stop like a lot of that bucking problem I had, where at low RPMs and low throttle, letting off, the car would lurch and buck and kind of bounce. It's not doing that. It didn't do that after the axles. It cleaned it up a lot when I put the race axles in. And then now that I've got polyurethane bushings for my diff mounts, it's gone even more. Like, the car feels so snappy right now. Like, every input with the gas and let off and stuff, like, everything just feels connected and direct and solid. It's kind of hard to describe, to be honest, but it is a noticeable difference. Sorry guys, just stopped to fill it up with some gas. 94 octane, of course. This car's tuned for 94 octane. Thankfully we have it here, so it lets us push just a little bit further with the tune and still be safe. We don't have E85 up in Canada, so 94 octane is kind of the champion up here, as best we can do octane wise. Squeeze a little bit extra power out of that tune without worrying about detonation. But man, yeah, like I was saying, that like I was saying, that driveline just feels super connected. Everything feels just tight. Is the best I can describe it. It feels like a new car. That's one thing I'll say. When I started this journey, before I started modding my car, if you look at the start of my channel, my car was totally stock when I started. I'd driven it that way for about 7 years and raced it that way a lot at the track for 7 years. Not like I was worried about warranty or anything, but it was just more, I knew that headers was going to be the biggest way to make power, and it was expensive, and I was hesitating forever to pull the trigger to buy the headers. And then I was trying to figure out like if somebody could install them, and no shops around here were willing to try to install headers on the car. A lot of cars just straight up told me no when I asked them. So I decided I was going to do it myself, and maybe that's how I'd start the channel, just to show people that they could do it themselves. All that good stuff. And when my car was at that point, it was, a lot of things were starting to kind of wear a little bit, like just driveline wise. Because I've been racing a lot, a lot of the bushing components and stuff like that, like I was wheel hopping really badly, and it got worse and worse, progressively worse, to the point that the car was just wheel hopping horrendously, to the point that it was hard to get in and punch it because the tires would just start bouncing so bad. So doing the cradle bushings was a big step. All of a sudden, boom, my wheel hop is gone, along with those rear trailing arms. So it was mainly the cradle bushings, the Whiteline cradle bushings I put in. And then slowly here, I kind of still put a lot of emphasis on power and stuff like that. So little things like slop in the drive line, and just like the car doesn't feel super tight, but it's got lots of power, but it just, you know what I mean? It feels kind of, it's not, there's slop is the best way I can describe it, just from like worn bushings and worn parts and stuff like that. So doing the race axles really tightened up the feel of the rear end. And then at the same time, because when I did the axles, if you recall in that video, I put in the Hotchkis sway bars, the rear sway bar in the front. That made a crazy difference. All of a sudden my car the handling tightened up like immediately. Like, you wouldn't think sway bars make a big difference, but it made a huge difference with no real negative side effects at all. So now all of a sudden my car's got all the power I want, and now the handling is nice and tight. It feels really sorted, like way better than stock. And then doing these polyurethane bushings, when I repaired that diff, now all of a sudden the drive line and the drive shaft, everything feels so connected and so tight. The best way I can describe it is, if you guys followed me along with that video when I went to Barrett Jackson, kind of in the middle of COVID there, because my little brother-in-law was selling his Corvette, we rented that Hellcat Red Eye, and we rented that for a couple days, and that was so much fun. But in that review that I did, I stated multiple times that just the car felt really just super sorted, and it handled really just solid. God, that's amazing.
It's a fun road for it.
Not only that, the car handles really well. Like, it just feels like super flat and super just in control in these corners. And then getting back into my car after that, my car's still kind of, it was bucking and it's still kind of bouncy. Like, driving slow around town, it's kind of like bouncing, trying to go through playground zones, or like really slow in parking lots and stuff. Like, you're cruising it in one gear, like say like third gear or second gear, and then you let off and then the car would bounce, just because there's enough slop and bounce that once that shock kind of made its way through the drive line, it would kind of start bouncing. So there was a big difference between that Hellcat Red Eye and my car, like noticeably, right? But now, with all the upgrades I've done, and now I've done the diff with the polyurethane bushings, there's a really big difference in how my car handles. It feels like that Hellcat Red Eye, honestly. Like, it's just super solid and sorted. It feels like a brand new car is the best way I can describe it. My engine really likes the air, the cool air. It's got a ton of power. My tires don't. These are still the drag radials, and they don't like hooking up very much. They don't like hooking up very much in this cool. So while I can have fun, I've got to watch it too at the same time. Man, this is such a blast, honestly. So the only thing I do notice, I said on my previous drive around just the other day that I didn't really notice if it was actually that much noisier, my diff whine with the new bushings. Around town, you definitely don't notice it. It sounds about the same. But at highway speeds, when you're on the gas, you can definitely hear it more pronounced. It definitely is a little bit louder. But at the same time, my diff has always whined. It's done that for a long time. In fact, when I went and took my father-in-law for a drive in the car after I did the cam, just for a reaction video, he commented that it sounds like there's a supercharger in your car.
Yeah, that has a really nice sound to it.
Yeah.
I like that. Right?
It's not bad, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a supercharger.
Yeah, kind of. It's got a little bit
Yeah,
of
it's got a little bit of a whine to it, eh?
Yeah, it's funny.
Way back then, you could definitely notice that there was a fair bit of diff whining noise. I feel like it's louder with the new bushings, with the polyurethane bushings in the diff. But at the same time, if the diff wasn't making noise, then I wouldn't hear or notice anything. There's no noticeable vibration or anything like that. And that is actually a thing with Challengers for some reason. If you check all the forums, doesn't matter what year, the older ones, a brand new 2020 or 2022, they all seem to have diff whine. There's tons and tons of posts about it, and nobody seems to be able to fix it. It just seems to be a thing. As the diff breaks in, it starts to whine. Okay, we're gonna let this guy get in front of us, and anyways, let's do a quick pull. Once we get a little space, and let's go. Pretty much in January, unheard of. I know my car is going to be parked for the next 4 months, so it's a nice little send-off. We'll have it back out in April probably. But it's kind of nice to break it up. Instead of 6 months like it normally is, it's going to be 4 months. Kind of a treat. Anyways, guys, thanks so much.